Good evening. New developments today in the row over noise from Invercargill's Aluminium Factory Hasomes. A report prepared for Hasomes by a consultant environmental engineer indicates sound levels from the factory are very low. It concludes community response has been out of proportion to the character and level of the noise, but residents are unimpressed. They're pinning their hopes on the Area Health Board's report, which will be based on a doctor's interviews with residents and another noise survey. Kathy Graham reports.
Every day there's a headache, and you can't work effectively.
Personally, it gives me headaches. I notice a change in my headaches when the factory isn't going. It's affected my asthma, and two of my other children seem to have their asthma seems to be worse when the factory's going.
Hasomes' aluminium plant in Prestonville's been blamed for a whole raft of health problems. Residents have complained of respiratory problems, headaches, ringing in the ears, and particularly insomnia ever since the factory began operating. It's just across the river from one of Invercargill's poshest streets, where artist Peter Beadle and the Reverend Jeff Marsh live. They've led the residents' campaign for the factory's closure. The Marshes moved out into a motel recently to get a decent night's sleep, but they say they can't afford to do that now.
We haven't done that since because of the tension from the community. We're under the spotlight a lot more, and there is a danger that property and persons could be hurt.
Do you have any reason to believe that property and persons will be hurt?
From my own experience, yes.
What's happened?
A burglary.
Anything else?
That's enough for me.
Every night now, just after midnight, a car will come past our place. It hits the corner, it revs like mad, and he hits the car horn as he goes past, and it's just a real racket of noise. And just recently now we're getting phone calls during the night, and nobody is there when you answer the phone. If we are getting any sleep at that stage, it just wakes us up, and it's making the situation quite bad. And so you just go back into a sort of unsettled night for the rest of the night while this sort of grinding vibration goes on.
Heather Vanderlum says her whole family's been affected, especially baby Jessica. The only place she gets a sound sleep is in the closet.
Last night, actually, I put her in the bedroom to try again because I'm reluctant to put her in the wardrobe. And she didn't settle, so I wheeled her through, shut the door, and she's asleep nearly straight away.
By midnight, you become aware of this humming sound. It seems to be outside. By 1 o'clock in the morning, it seems to be under your bed. By 2 in the morning, it's in your pillow. By 3 in the morning, it's right in your head. It just drives you mad. I've seen people reduced to tears. I've seen women just crying helplessly at 4 o'clock in the morning because they can't sleep.
Residents say at the very least they want the factory moved. In essence, Hasomes' consultant says they're overreacting. Meanwhile, council's waiting on the evidence of the noise surveys and impact on residents' health before it decides on what action it can take.
Gore's about to lose something that's been a fixture in the town for years. It's almost certain that from the end of the month, the railway station will no longer sell train or bus tickets. It's expected to shift to a garage across the road, leaving the future of the station in jeopardy. Michael Lynch reports.
This will be a thing of the past in a few weeks. Apart from a few shunting staff, Gore's railway station will be empty. The busy and cosy little ticket office will be closed, and the service shifted to a garage across the road. The buses will stop there, not at the station. All except the Tapanui bus, though. It and its driver of 32 years are both being axed. Driver Pat White is happy enough to have more time for his duck shooting, but he doesn't think much of the shift.
It won't be the same. Like, there's a bit of shelter here, over there it won't be. It'll sort of be out in the open, I think.
Why would they want to shift the Southerner booking office from the station, where it's perfectly happy, across to a garage across the road? The train doesn't stop at the garage.
No, it stops here. We're going to have for at least a year, we're going to have people coming into our office asking where to go for a ticket. And we're going to have to stay over there, and we're going to get tired of staying over there, whereas why couldn't it stay here?
Ticket clerk Adair White's taking a redundancy and a cherished pot plants across to a new job, dishing out railways tickets from the service station.
The student riots in Dunedin at Easter appear to have had plenty of precedent, according to a new book called Ritual Song of Defiance. It's a social history of Otago students, and as Kim Hurring reports, it's a timely look at the things students have always done when they weren't studying.
youth's love of dressing up always finds an outlet in various varsity rags. The Otago University capping procession was resumed this year after a 12-month abeyance by order of the authorities.
Students were in conflict with authorities even in the 1920s, and in his first book, Sam Elworthy says drinking had by then become an important part of capping festivities.
Drunken pranks and even the political radicals seem to have a lot more humour. You know, they seem to see that what they're engaged in was rather amusing.
Elworthy says Otago students' spirit of defiance developed further in the 60s and 70s when they came up against those in control. The way to protest was to sit in, and when the university came up with new regulations to discipline students, 2,300 of them swarmed on the registry office.
And by the 1880s, their main institution sort of tradition was at the capping ceremony, and they'd turn up there and they'd dress up in funny wigs and they'd hurl abuse at the speakers and put up big cartoons along the back wall, and many times in the 1880s they got kicked out by the police, and police would stand at the door to guard so that no students would come in. So I don't think those sort of acts of defiance or naughtiness have just started with the riots or anything like that. Yeah.
Sam Elworthy's book reveals student playfulness that will surprise many people, but also it's an intriguing insight into what he calls the youthful enthusiasm and rebelliousness which has characterised students for more than 100 years.
Skier Jane Blair is back in Arrowtown with the United States junior ski title in her travel bag. And as Ken Nicholson reports, her successes overseas have opened up new doors for her in the difficult world of international skiing.
She started skiing at 18 months, and ever since, Jane Blair has been one of this country's hottest prospects. But at Mount Bachelor in Oregon, she excelled all previous efforts, winning the downhill and the overall US junior titles, something that's given her greater confidence and opportunities.
Just making contact with some of the US coaches. I've been invited to train at Mount Hart this year with them if they come over, the women team, and just being able to meet some of the coaches and teams over there is a good contact, and having that good result is probably good for PR over here.
I would imagine it would help you a lot in confidence too in future trips, now that you've had one international success like that.
Yes, it does. It's as I say, it's another step up the ladder. My ambition is, you know, if I can do well in skiing, I'll do the best I can, and that should take me to the top of the world, hopefully. But if it's not possible, you know, with lack of funds or something like that, I don't think it would be worthwhile doing. I will either do it well or not do it. That's my motto.
As a champion, Jane manages to stay upright more than most of us. But even she came to grief once in the States.
Jane, I understand you had a bit of excitement at Aspen as well.
Yes, we had another downhill race there, and I had my first downhill crash. And going at about 100 k's isn't very nice when you crash. I was doing almost a Superman dive, landing on the snow and sliding along at about 80 k's an hour. So I felt like my suit was about to melt.
You survived and you're back.
Yeah, just.
Good one. We'll be back tomorrow night. Good night.